mentioned earlier that you were talking to some younger people. Do you think this will have, the Ledbetter Act will have more of an effect on younger women having an equal pay across the board forever, or do you think it's going to have a bigger effect on people now who might be looking into their corporation's policies, and how does this fit with kind of the larger scope of?
I think for young people, like the group I had lunch with today, they are thinking about themselves, and they're talking about their mothers and generations like mine, and they're looking to what they can do to not let this happen in their life. Mm-hmm. And that's what young people have today. They have so much resources to investigate employers and to not go in one of them that would mistreat them in their pay and benefits. And they can be selective because there are some out there and they are changing. Mm-hmm. But far as equal pay, the Ledbetter bill does not help you get equal pay. It only helps you if you find out you're discriminated against to correct, do something about it. We still have a lot of work because the equal pay law was passed 50 years ago, and we've only gained, white women has gained 18 cents in 50 years. We were making 59 cents to the dollar in 1963, and today we only make 77. And if you're a young woman graduating with a good upper scale college degree, you might be making 82 cents. Mm-hmm. We haven't gained enough yet. This is not equality. This is not fairness. And we have got to change this. We need paycheck fairness. It passed the House each time it's been voted on. In the Senate, it came up 2 votes short. Every Democrat voted for it, but not one Republican. And this is not Republican, and it's not Democrat. This is both parties. This is an American fundamental right that we are paid equitably and fairly.
Do you think, I mean, talking about needing more gains, do you think, like, personally, I see women of my generation, they're like, oh, feminism, that was in the 60s. We did that. They did great. We don't need to do anything else. Do you find that younger women are just not, they just don't see it, or do they need to be pushed a little more to realize that we're still not making as much?
Well, a lot of them are under the impression because they know about equal pay, they know about Title VII passing in '64, they think we have it. Mm-hmm. But when I go to a campus, I can take Auburn University in Alabama. The first year I went down about 5 years ago to speak to their women's leadership group. The young women said, we don't need to hear a pay advocate. We have equal pay. We have it. And Dr. Baker said, you come. I want you to hear this speaker. And I go back every year now, simply because it's such a demand for me to come back regardless. They had Myra Angelou last year, and they had Marie Wilson the year before that. But so was LillyLedbetter there. I wasn't speaking, but I was available for students to talk to and be there because it's a wake-up call. They do know now we do not have equal pay. Mm-hmm. And that's why I wanted the book, because I wanted and I held out for the book because it will stay around a lot of years that I'm not around.
Okay. Are you still finding that young women are surprised that we don't have an equal pay? Or
a lot of them have experienced it because a lot of your college students get part-time jobs to help pay their way through college, and they're experiencing it. A college in New York a couple of years ago, the students talked about going down to a home supply place in the summer, and they got jobs. And they were told, do not discuss your pay or we won't keep you. Mm-hmm. Well, the temporary people, they discussed it. So the young African-American on the cash register next to the white guy, they discussed their pay. She was making $8.50, he was getting $9. Somebody said, why didn't you quit? She said, because I needed that money in order to come back to school in the fall. Mm-hmm. And she said it paid better than flipping burgers. Mm-hmm. So she stayed. But they saved 50 cents an hour for every hour she worked. And you take when you have people like myself, I've lost an awful lot of money. I've lost a lot of money in my retirement checks. When my retirement checks and Social Security goes in the bank, I just know I'm at least 40%, but actually I'm much greater than that, less than I should be getting. Mm-hmm. This is not right, because I work just as hard as the men, I carried my weight and I did my shift. I did it really well.
That's kind of all the questions I have on this, but I'm sure I'm gonna hear a lot more tonight at the
Yeah.
talk. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, see, another reason that this had to be changed too, from May, when the verdict came down in '07 until July, there were over 300 cases that the judges cleaned up their calendars and just threw them out, simply because of the 180-day technicality. Those judges used that technicality. One of them is even on a young man trying to get in non-accessible handicapped housing. This was the misinterpretation all the way around. So it was critical it was changed.
What did it mean to you when President Obama signed the legislation?
That's the most out-of-this-world experience I have ever felt in my entire life. It was just awesome, because to know that that pen meant what it did to all of the people that came after me. And my daughter was sitting in the front row, and she's still out there working. I've got a granddaughter, and I had 3 grandsons sitting in that front row that day. And someday those boys will probably have wives, and it'll mean a lot that their wives are paid properly. It will be for future generations and of people today. It's just, there's no words that can really describe what I felt that day. It was just awesome. And the women who was in the White House that day, and a lot of the men that were there as guests, that was the first time they'd been in that White House in 8 years. 8 years. And it was awesome. We walked up, it was so freezing cold that January day, and we walked up to that gate that morning, and most of the people was already gathered and there, and they went to screaming and hollering and chanting my name like I was a rock star. And my grandson's eyes were yay big, and they were looking at me like, who are you now? They just couldn't believe it, because they had never seen their grandmother in that setting. And my daughter had told them at breakfast that morning, said, now you're going to see a new side today you've never seen of your grandma, because she had experienced the train trip with me with the Obamas and the Bidens. And it had just been such an experience for her, because when she met the Obamas on that train that day, she got really quiet, and I looked around, and she just got tears just streaming down her face, and I said, Vicki, what's wrong? She said, you're right. These are the most personable people I've ever met. They're just, I mean, you just meet them, and you just feel like you're down-home people with them. They're just amazing. And they could walk in here, and they'd be just the same with you folks as they are with me or with the Queen of England. They're amazing. They really care about people. And my husband died in December, and I requested in Washington that nobody contact me till after the funeral. So the day after the funeral, the first call I got at 9 o'clock that morning was from Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. And the second one, the person said, would you hold for President-elect Obama? And the third one was, when would be a good time for Michelle to call me? Now, those 3 people was all transitioning, even from their living, where they was living, and changing offices, changing jobs, but they called. They took time to call me. And the president and his wife both started working on getting me to the inauguration. But the president was getting me on the train and trip, and Mrs. Obama was just getting me a ticket to the inauguration, so I told him that I'd just take his offer. But I finally figured it out when they would tell me, her group would say, do you want to go to the swearing in or the parade? And I'd say, I can't do both. Well, no, the logistics, you can't get from one to the other. So I said, his would call, and they wouldn't ask me that. So one day I asked them, I said, do I not have to choose? They said, no, you'll be on the bus. I said, well, I'll stick with you folks. I said, tell Mrs. Obama's people I'll accept your offer. But it's just unbelievable. I told the students today, sometimes I look at my life today, and it's almost unreal, the journey I've had. and in some of the choices in life, I don't think up until the last few years were the most wise choice I should have made, but, we all have our hindsights, but the last few years, it's just been unreal.
The good thing is what you've done for other people. You had a tough experience, but you turned it into something positive for other people.
It's not been easy. I'll be the first to admit that. And it's not easy on the families either. It really is not. I found myself in a position that I could do it, and I stayed with it. And I had the support from home. You have to be a tough individual. You need your family support, and you really need a stronger faith, something to believe in too. And I had all three.
You mentioned your daughter and your granddaughter. Were they, kind of sources of inspiration in the midst of all this?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, my granddaughter, she'll just be 8 in a week, so she's a little small, but my daughter has been. She has been. She's really a super lady. I'm very proud of her.
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks.